All right, here we are, E3 day 2, very successful day 2. Again,
very successful day 2.
Yeah, again, I am joined by Dan Trachtenberg, who hung out with me all day at on the show floor at E3. We did a lot of behind closed doors meetings all day, big long day. We're both really tired, but man, awesome, some
life-altering things that happened today.
There really wasn't anything that I wasn't impressed by. So let's go right down the list to start from the top. The first thing we saw is a game. We went to the behind closed doors demo of Ryse, Son of Rome, which is a game that's been getting a lot of crap, I think, online because people, I think, misunderstand what the game is.
Yeah, I think we all saw the demo at if you watch the press conferences on TV or if you were there, and some people interpreted the button prompts over people's heads to be QuickTime events in the combat of this game. Before we even get into that,
like make it seem like it was wall-to-wall QuickTime events.
Right. It was just sped up for the demo. They lowered the hit points of the character so those button prompts were going off left and right. But really, very similar to Batman, Arkham Asylum, or Origins, or City, and I'm sure Origins, it's a full-on awesome combat system.
Yeah.
But there are kill moves, there are execute moves, and you proc them.
You unlock them during the game, and then you proc them, and then they
And the combat looked awesome. I love these action role-playing game combat games, and the combat looked awesome. Some of the best graphics we've seen in a game. I think we were like really close to the television screen, and like the fidelity was like
it looks truly next gen.
Yes,
and the guy who was demoing it was the producer of the game. This is a Crytek game, so CryEngine, beautiful engine. And one of the things that he said that really stuck with me was motion capture is last gen. This new generation of systems is about performance capture, which is the technology that James Cameron basically pioneered with Avatar and used in The Hobbit and stuff like that. And it's that
the Planet of the Apes, the recent Planet of the Apes,
Planet of the Apes, right?
And then in games, L.A. Noire,
right?
Now.
Or
gen,
I think the game you just referenced today, the PS3 game with the redheaded chick.
Oh really? Oh right, yeah. Well, he did Enslaved and Heavenly Sword. Yeah.
But the thing that they were saying today in Ryse was that performance capture and has been used in cutscenes, but here they're using performance capture throughout the entire game. So even
background,
even like the action moments, they have performance capture on the guy's face, so it's not just motion capturing the moves of the attacks. It's like how his face is. There's emotion and
no one's dead-eyed, and we saw some other games that like were like, oh yeah, current gen, we still feel so video gamey, and this stuff looked just amazing. And I loved him discussing. What I love because of the Dark Souls games games like that are the combat is not like Dark Souls, but can be accessible.
Right.
If you choose to button mash, you can forge your way through the game.
Right. And
you just won't be leveling up certain abilities and XP or whatever. But if you can choose to be a badass, and you can even turn off those button prompts and just find the tells and the anims. The animations. Yeah. And be a soldier. Be Marcus Teronius or whatever.
Roman
McRomeo.
Yeah.
And be an awesome combat artisan, So
that's a really important point that I don't think that it seemed like they didn't mean to reveal it, but there is a mode where you can turn off those button prompts and just react to the tells in the animation. Yeah. Like when his arm goes out, that's an X button move.
Which is my favorite kind of combat system. It means that I can actually be an awesome player of the game. I'm not just playing. We're not all just hitting buttons to get through a story like everyone else playing the game. We're really, becoming a great player of the game.
And they talk about like this risk-reward system where your health does not regen. You can have a reward that when you do those execution moves, it'll regen your health. But you can give that up to add other bonuses like XP bonuses to earn the
gold or strength or whatever. They didn't really talk about that, but so that you think you're a badass and you're not going to get hit, you can level up something different. and
It's a
not regenerate
stunning
health.
looking game. It looks like a solid combat system. It's in a milieu that we haven't really seen a million times. If you aren't paying attention to Ryse, I think it's really on the top of my list for
Very much
Xbox
on
One
the top
games.
of my list, absolutely.
And another game, the next game we went into right there behind closed doors at Microsoft was another game that at the press conference I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. But behind closed doors, it blew my mind. I kept turning to you and just like going, and that's Project Spark, which is ostensibly a Little Big Planet in a 3D world rather than a 2D world. But the tool set is exactly what I wanted Little Big Planet to be, which is super easy and actually fun to create. So while Little Big Planet is a great game and I enjoyed playing it,
and I'm glad that other people created with it.
right, but the creating itself you didn't play to create. And it seems like this...
And to Little Big Planet's credit, it was very accessible to create something, but you were still merely creating, and it still, while it was accessible, seemed like you had to kind of hunker down. Not like real game programming, but whatever. This, however, felt like you're just expressing yourself. You really is kind of like this is really dumbing it down, but like what Instagram did. Usually you had to be a Photoshop master to make your photos look have that affected look, and Instagram made that really easy for everyone. This is not quite as easy as Instagram, or it's like iMovie, right? For people that don't know how to use Final Cut Pro, you're right now for this video, even Jeff
me
can use like iMovie to put his thing up, So that's what but you can go really deep with it. I mean, you can really affect the things. It's like what you would want to do. What it seems like is with Little Big Planet, it's amazing how creative people got with such limitations.
Yeah.
Where this is, you really can. If you go, I wish I could just do that. Oh, it's a shame to get. No, this is like, no, you can change that. You can change that behavior. You can do that. And it's all very like what you want it to be. It's very clear about, just if that, then that. I don't need to do the if X, Y, whatever, C++. It's like, it's visual. It's great.
You can create behaviors for your character, for enemies. You can... he was showing it on a giant touchscreen television, and it really is made for touch. You just, expand things.
Surface. He had a giant Surface TV, basically.
Yeah, but also, it's supporting smart glass. You do it on the smart glass. You can obviously do it with the controller. I think there's lots of that Connect stuff that you can do it with. So there's lots of easy ways to interact with the tool set. But the tool set is so incredible. And not only that, he started off showing us, from scratch. But not only that, there's all these sort of set scenarios so that you're creating while playing something. Mm-hmm. So it starts out like, okay, here's a story. You're a what? And then you select what you are. Boom. You live in a what? And you select, tavern, hovel, cave, whatever, and it builds that into your world. And you're looking for what? And, a princess, a chest, or whatever. And it builds that. And then you, draw a little path about where you should go, and it populates it with enemies and things. You're playing, and even more than that, there's a mode where you can actually be playing, and, you jump and hit a button, and it puts a platform underneath you. So
now all the platforms are evenly spaced for you to be able to jump
to them.
And if you were playing it fresh.
And on top of that, it looks so beautiful with the new...
And instantaneously
Instantaneous.
My only hesitancy is, will it actually be fun to play? That's why I was asking about the combat system. Can I... If there were no blocks or dodges in the game and I was just hitting, spamming X and Y, punches... Could I somehow create a block so I could have a more complex fighting mechanic in the game? Those kinds of things are what to me make a game actually fun to play. And I could hit a wall. It would be really like Little Big Planet. Although Little Big Planet, the game design levels were actually great. I loved playing that game. It was a platformer.
Right.
And then what was fun was downloading the Back to the Future level, the Ghostbusters level, and all that stuff. And with this Project Spark, that's all going to be really fun for a short period of time. But the longevity comes in, is it actually a great playing game?
I think that the fact that it's a real 3D world and the objects, the complexity of objects looks so limitless, that you can cobble together any kind of thing. And I asked him if there's going to be other tile sets, so it's not just a fantasy kind of lush fantasy world. And he's like, well, yeah, we're talking about that. So the sky's the limit on this thing.
If they could even go beyond that and just you can draw your own thing and paste it onto as a texture. It's like now we've got real games being. I mean, it's like you could make
It's really exactly what I wish Little Big Planet could be.
Yeah.
What did we do after that? We went to Bethesda. We went to Bethesda, and let's leave the best one for last. We saw 2 behind closed doors, big long presentations of an Evil Within or The Evil Within, and Wolfenstein, New Order. I was not impressed with either of them really, but Evil Within is the guy who made Resident Evil, returning to survival horror and making a true survival horror game.
Visually, I would say it looks great for the current gen. It looked very current gen. Maybe it is just current gen.
It's very Resident Evil. It looks like Resident Evil 4 to me.
But the graphics are great. If it was coming out next month, I'd be like, wow, these are great graphics. Just in comparison to like Ryse and things like that. It's got that dead-eyed, anyway. Heads are just like they just have that,
Yeah.
What I liked, the opening scene of the game that he played through, really felt like a slasher. Well, like a slasher movie, but because you're not armed, you're not like Resident Evil where you're walking into the haunted house and you got your gun and dogs are gonna pop out the stained glass. You're gonna shoot them. That's later.
They did show that level.
Yeah, they showed that later. But this first really felt like you're Jessica Biel. I forget the actress in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and because there's little Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy chasing you.
Yeah.
But you don't, and you're like when you're yelling at the screen, like just grab the thing, whatever.
Go faster.
Yeah, you're having to control that experience. Yeah. That to me felt really. It really just felt like you're surviving a slash movie, and it wasn't until later. It wasn't like crazy gobbledygook monster. It was there's a slasher. You're in a scary place and you're trying to get away. That was, I thought, really kind of cool. Later, when you are fighting, I thought the creatures were inventive, and they matched that genre.
Yeah.
Not milieu, but that genre. Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Whatever, like whatever crazy thing your mind come up with.
12
hands
arms.
coming out of things. And the combat looked scary and exciting because you don't never know what's behind you and all that stuff. So I just was sort of like you're in an insane asylum and you're, it's like it's kind of like
I just didn't think the moments were crafted very well.
Yeah,
like there was a part where he was sneaking up and had to grab the keys. And
yeah,
I was like,
I liked that.
I was
That's
like,
when I liked it.
right when he grabbed the keys and felt safe, the guy should have chased him. But there was a whole sequence where he leaves and then the guy chases him.
But I think it wasn't doing the jolt scares. To me, it was like, okay, you got to navigate, but he still has no weapon, and the guy just barely missed him, and
Wolfenstein. I was a huge fan of the Wolfenstein franchise. I loved Return to Castle Wolfenstein. It was one of my favorite games of that year, years and years ago. They showed 2 levels, and this is from the guys who used to be Starbreeze, who did The Darkness and Chronicles of Riddick. And it feels very much,
games.
Yeah, it feels very much like those games. The first sequence they showed, I was riveted.
Yeah, me too.
And it's like you are undercover on this train with these Nazis and this creepy Nazi chick.
It was like a scene from Inglourious Basterds where it's a very Quentin Tarantino, or at least that movie where I know something you don't know. Like you don't know if she sees that you're undercover. Yeah, and it's this tense exchange, and she's creepy. The performances are great.
Was phenomenal,
and I think I was very impressed with the graphics. I didn't when they showed things from this game in previous.
Yeah,
I didn't think it looked like whatever, but I was very impressed with how.
And the writing was so good.
I wanted to play the game to experience the story.
Yeah, and even later when he goes into the room and she's like, "Are you here for me?" And he's like, "Yeah." I just thought
the romance.
It was so good.
Yeah, it was.
But then they showed the shooting, which is likely going to be 80% of the game, and the shooting was very rote and very uninteresting, and sort of level design was.
I liked there's a couple of the weapons were cool, and I love the particle effects.
Yep.
When you explode
particle effects
is next. It's fire. Is the new fire. It's the new water.
Yeah, and it's the new lens flare.
Yeah.
Particle effects is like, oh, everybody got particle effects in the next gen. They got that plug-in, and so everything sparks and radiates energy.
I'm a fan of that.
It looks good. It looks good.
Incorporated
used a lot of that.
Things. I thought it made things look good.
Yeah.
And the thing that's weird too is he stressed it's an action adventure, not just a typical first-person shooter. I don't get any sense of the adventure.
In the second part. In the first part.
Well, sure, yeah, but that's not really... To me, adventure is Uncharted. It's an action adventure.
Yeah.
And I actually think that third person is what really... I always figured third person would be necessary for the adventuring.
Right.
I'd be impressed if they could pull off that side first person shooter, but they showed none of the adventuring to me. Maybe he's just talking about tone.
Maybe he's talking about, yeah.
But,
I don't know. If the game has a lot more of that first scene, like, I'm in. I loved that.
It graphically looked like Bioshock Infinite. I mean, it kind of reminded me of Bioshock Infinite. Which,
by the way, it reminded me of the darkness.
Timeline.
It reminded me of the darkness, because in the darkness you have those moments where you're, like, talking to the mob guys, and there's these long sequences where you're, like, having a discussion, and the writing's all really strong, and...
Sort of like in Bioshock Infinite.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the real money of the Bethesda booth, which is last year's E3, my biggest disappointment of the show, because I was so excited for it, was the Elder Scrolls Online MMO. Yeah. And I'm here to tell you, I'm 180 degrees eating my words. They have turned this game around, and I cannot wait to play it. It is a contender for my game of show. It is exactly what I would have dreamed about for an Elder Scrolls MMO, which is Elder Scrolls game with a lot of other players.
If you were like me,
Elder Scrolls,
and like everyone else, I'm sure thought when you played Skyrim, you said, "Why can't this just be populated with everyone else playing the game right now?" That's all that Elder Scrolls. I mean, it really.
But that's not what they showed last year. Last year, I came out of it going, "Why does it have to be just an MMO with an Elder Scrolls skin? Why does it have to be all the stupid MMO things that we've seen 1,000 times?" Yeah. But they got rid of all that. Literally, it is completely redefining what an MMO can be.
Tell them about the cooldowns.
There aren't any. There are no cooldowns. The thing that we always have done in MMOs is watching do a skill and wait for that skill to cool down and be able to do it again. No more. It is all pure action combat. So you do something, and if you have more mana, or in Elder Scrolls case, magicka, or stamina, if you're doing a physical thing. Yeah. Just like in Elder Scrolls, if you have more to do, you can do it. Keep doing it. Spam that thing if you want. If you want to, it'll use it up. Which is wonderful. It's wonderful, and it's a complete breath of fresh air. Another breath of fresh air. There are no giant question marks or giant exclamation points in this world. If someone is interactable, they kind of have a little bit of a glow around them, but that's the
glow outline, not the whole body. Just
right.
Out, yeah.
And same thing with a door that is part of a quest, or a chest that's part of a quest. Very subtle, doesn't break the mood. In fact, there's a lot of things that don't break the mood, just like you would want in a great RPG like an Elder Scrolls game, is your stamina and health and magicka bars fade out when you don't need to see them anymore. So you're just in the world. They're not tons of UI everywhere. You can walk up to doors and open them and go into those buildings, just like you can in Oblivion and Skyrim. In MMOs, if a door's shut, likely you can't go in that place. Mm-hmm. There are tons of items to pick up that you would find in an Elder Scrolls game, bottles and bread and cheese and all that stuff, and those can be used in your crafting system. So it's not like you're just looking for that one node of mining to mine that one thing because that's the one node that's in this zone. There's all kinds of detritus in the world like you would find in a real role-playing game.
Detritus.
Yeah, I use that word. Mm-hmm. That you can.
I didn't know you had that. I hope it's not contagious.
I got that penicillin. What else? It looks beautiful. They have that first-person view if you want back. So and when you're in that first-person view in this game, it looks exactly like Skyrim. Mm-hmm. It's enormous. Oh. Dialogue trees that work exactly like you would want in an Elder Scrolls game. You walk up, story is conveyed. It's all voice acted.
PC, by the way, but it's coming out
for PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah. And that's what I think is we're excited to play on controller.
Yeah, we are.
See the UI for that.
For sure. And, it's all voice acted. There are branching, big...
Well done voice acting.
Well done voice acting. Branching story story conversation points. I can choose to let someone live. Somebody who I'm grouped with can choose to let them die. We can make our own choices. It's not like Star Wars where somebody gets to make the big choice and that's what the group decides. They'll phase certain places for me and not for you if we make different choices, which is really smart. It is... another thing. The skill system. So you have these skills that you level up. You level them like you would in an Elder Scrolls game. The more you use swords, the higher level you are in them. No items are restricted to you by class. If you want to get a bow and arrow, but you're a fighter, you can do that. If you want to, pick up a staff, but you're a rogue, you can do that and start using it. And your XP will be applied to the weapon skill that you have equipped. And you can, you have these skills that you'll level up, and more skills will open up when you join, like, the Adventurers Guild, or the Fighters Guild, Mages Guild. Those are the only two that are going to be at launch, but they'll have the Assassins and the Thieves Guild later, but as DLC, or as additions to the MMO. It's just, I want to play it so bad. I was having so much fun, and it looks so great, and I'm so glad that this game has changed from what it was last.
I'm really glad that it's a role-playing game that's massively multiplayer and online. My only hesitancy is the combat. Will I feel wanting the combat that even in Skyrim,
Yeah.
Do I just want more out of that experience?
And it said it's going to be huge with like every zone is like 150 hours worth of content. There's like a bunch of zones.
Crazy.
What did we see after Bethesda? Warner Brothers. Oh, we saw Mad Max. Which is actually a game. We just
yeah, we thought it was just a trailer for something that might come out at some point. It's going to come out before the movie comes out. I think maybe next summer.
Yeah.
And this is not related to the movie at all. And Tom Hardy's in the movie. This doesn't look like Tom Hardy. It's not like really.
And it doesn't look like Mel Gibson either.
It's young.
Dark-haired guy.
A little bit like Mel Gibson, Road Warrior.
Yeah.
But it's not quite. It's not like Mel Gibson.
Right.
And the voice is nothing like his. Car combat. I was saying
big open world game.
Big open world.
Avalanche Studios, the guys that did Just Cause and Just Cause 2.
The thing I was saying to Jeff was, I think probably equal to, if not more, than the Aliens franchise. The Aliens franchise has influenced almost every futuristic
sci-fi
game that we've played, which is hundreds of games.
Right.
And I think second to that, if not equal to or more, are post-apocalyptic games,
right? Which
they're the father of. There is not something besides Mad Max that birthed that. It's Road Warrior. It's not even Mad Max. It's Road Warrior.
Borderlands, Rage, Fallout, any of those games. It's all Road Warrior.
Yes. So, and then we saw Alien Colonial Marines come out, this past year to problems. Yeah. And I sense that Mad Max will have similar problems.
Well, don't say that. Aliens Colonial Marines had technical problems. You're not saying that.
I'm not saying technical problems. I'm saying, one, I feel like this isn't special because I've done this.
Right.
Also, it's this huge, massive world, but I kind of feel like it's not necessarily a massive world that I want to spend much time in because it's being true to the. But it's just like. But also, what I'm saying is the combat, all the elements. Look, we only saw a slice, but I have a feeling of, oh boy, it's trying to honor its source material, but I don't know that it's a great game that needed to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, in the same way that Aliens Colonial Marines is like, well, I've played that because there's only these games that have ripped off that exact thing.
They all have takes.
Right.
That make them interesting. Like, in the comic, can be more of a take because it's not, but this has to kind of honor the, because it's talking about it's car combat, so there's no crazy weapons coming out of your cars,
right?
Which it wouldn't be Mad Max, but at the same time, so I'm just ramming cars with my cars. I don't know.
It did look nice.
There was some cool moments, and it could come together. Look, Elder Scrolls came together.
Right.
I just have a feeling this is going to have a problem. But
yeah, I didn't.
I would love to be. I would love
confidence out of it either.
To be awed by the next time I see it.
We saw Infinite Crisis, which is the MOBA from WB that's going to be all based on DC characters. We don't need to talk a lot about it. It's a MOBA. If you like MOBAs, it has DC characters. The one thing I will say is that I think they made a mistake going with the Infinite Crisis thing. It allows them to do all these fun, like, alternate Elseworlds versions of the characters, but that is not why I want to play a DC MOBA. I want to play a DC MOBA to play all the DC characters I know, not these weird, bizarro characters.
Aren't the ones you know also in it, though?
They are,
yeah.
But when I see a screenshot and there's all these bizarre, weird characters that I've never, that are all Elseworlds versions, it's not more fun. It's less fun because it feels less DC. That's all I'll say. But it's going to be a cool game, I think. And if you're into MOBAs and you like DC characters like I am, I'm gonna check it out.
I mean, he's a Marvel zombie from way back.
I am. It's true.
I love that you meant to say, you wanted to say that.
I did. I almost did.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a comic book geek. You know, you were like, and you couldn't say
in the room.
Yeah.
In this tiny room.
I mean, no one didn't know what was happening with me, but
what was the other thing we saw there? One other big
Mad
thing.
Max.
Dying Light.
Right.
Dying Light was one of my bigger surprises of the show because unannounced game, zombie game, too many zombie games already.
Way too many zombie.
But this might scratch the itch that I want from Mirror's Edge not coming out anytime soon.
Or Prey 2
not coming out anytime soon. Parkour free running game, zombies, but pretty darn cool. Like the idea of this giant open world zombie city outbreak.
Very pretty though, I will say. It's like Brazil or something. South
American,
it looks kind of
like favela,
but it's not like it's not grody like Mad Max. You know, it's
right.
It looked like it was pretty. I wanted to spend time in that world, despite there being horrible creatures.
And it's first person. It looks a lot like Dead Island meets Mirror's Edge.
You're crafting weapons and
first person smacking, mostly melee combat that we saw.
Yeah, all we saw was melee combat.
Yeah,
I think the most exciting part of it was it's like there's this infestation in the city of zombies. So cool that you have your parkour guy. So you've got to run up this and traverse that to avoid them. And then when a chase breaks out, it's full on parkour chase, but it's not SWAT shooting at you while you're parkouring. Right. It's zombie crazy guy running up the wall and whatever. Like it's that it could be really fun. I don't know that what the entire game.
Yeah.
With that idea.
There was one moment where he was running and there was a zombie standing in front of a wall and he jumped and he put his foot on the zombie's head to catapult him up the wall.
Yeah, that's like, oh shit.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
But
and there's like day and night cycles, so at night they mutate and get crazier. Anyway, I was kind of excited for this game. And then we went to the biggest surprise.
This is the surprise.
A company called City Interactive wanted to have a meeting with us, and I wasn't really aware of them. They're doing Alien
Rage.
Alien Fear. Alien Rage?
I really think it's called Alien Rage. I'm almost 100%
okay.
sure.
Anyway.
First-person shooter, cool.
Yeah. But the other game that was this unannounced RPG that's coming out for next-gen consoles and PC is called...
Lords of the Fallen.
Dan knows. It's your jam, so go ahead. It's your jam.
I mean, well, as you pointed out, this game's 2 years in development. What game came out 2 years ago? Dark Souls.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, this is awesome. Let's make a game like this. And boy, did they. But I think a bit more accessible. Just in the world is more of a Game of Thrones kind of fantasy world.
Yeah. It sounds like some really cool fiction, actually.
Yeah. And by the way, that's I love the fiction of Dark Souls. I've grown to love it. But the one thing I don't love about it, even though it's perfect for its game, is it's so isolated and depressing. And oh my god, like it's not beautiful. There's beautiful moments, but on the whole, I'm like, ugh. And there's a place called Blight Town, right? You
don't want to live in Blight Town.
No, but this game looked beautiful.
Yeah,
as Jeff would say,
I think it's better looking than Dark Souls 2.
There's some other anyway. But the combat is Dark Souls combat. It is straight up. You got your
tactical action.
but skill based and sword and shield. I mean, there's classes. You know, you can be. The cleric looked awesome.
The cleric looked awesome.
It looked awesome.
Yeah, it had like a big hammer.
You know, and it's got those gambling strategic moments. Where do I two-hand a weapon and go for super damage, but then I'm vulnerable
Super
after,
slow.
and I use my super slow. I use all my stamina up, and I can't dodge or block.
I mean, it's Dark Souls.
It's Dark Souls, but in a different way, which is great. I want more games like it. We have so many for everyone who likes first-person shooter. They have 10 million games to choose from. They scratch the itch that have these little differences that make it fun in their own way. And I'm so glad to have that with the kind of game that Dark Souls is.
And it's interesting, too, because he referenced a couple of times Borderlands
for
the skill system. And it seems like it's definitely Dark Souls, but it's got this, like, Borderlands skill system where you put some points into...
Or Ryse. Kill moves.
Right. Yeah. Well, it seemed more like...
Yeah, no, there's skills.
You put some points into, like... You know how in Borderlands you'll get that awesome epic skill to do, Berserker Rage or your bird or your turret or whatever.
Or
so it has, like, that kind
Far
of...
Cry 3.
Right.
You're leveling up a cool, like, there was a rogue character that really was just in Dark Souls, it would be the Dex build, it wasn't like Shadow Rogue.
Although that's fast, steady.
Faster with the sword still, as opposed to heavy, long sword. But, he'll be, like, invisible is a skill for 5 seconds. Like, it's, like, fun, and I think they are going to have more magic classes that we just didn't see. Yeah. So it's more of a traditional RPG leveling up mechanic than what we saw in Dark Souls.
This is your
man, I couldn't be more excited. I mean,
this or Dark Souls 2 for you if you can only buy one of them.
Well,
Dark Souls 2.
Dark Souls 2 just because there's another echelon which is the challenge, which this
he kept saying it was good.
This game was going to have a challenge, but it doesn't have the onus of and then I don't think there's going to be the I think you're going to understand how to play this game with Dark Souls. We also don't know is the multiplayer aspect in terms of co-op. I mean, there's just so much Dark Souls that I love, but this game is going to be phenomenal. Yeah, I think it looks great.
And then we went back to Microsoft and looked at Dead Rising, so another zombie game. Dead Rising 3. This is a game that I was really uninterested in from the press conference, and the behind closed doors turned me around because it looks really fun. And there's a mode with no time limits, so they got all my letters about that, which I appreciate. But there is also a mode with time limits, so if you're a purist on Dead Rising,
I think I like the time limits.
I do not. But and they've still got all that silliness. So what I took away from the press conference, which was, they went grittier. No, it's still wacky and silly. They showed like a shark costume and fun stuff, and putting cones on zombies' heads. But it's just the scope and scale is much bigger because of this. It's a next gen game, and the artist was in the room with us, and he was talking about how they're able to add so much more detail, and all the interiors are individually rendered. So like. There'll be one barbershop in town, and in the barbershop it has all these unique things that you would find in a barbershop, or one record store, or one. So it's not just it's
not like when you typically you go in a game and every place that you can go into, it's got like pill bottles of medicine, and this it's like the repeated assets. This is like in this place you see these kinds of things, and this place, and they're all like smart, interesting, cool-looking details that make sense in that.
And no loading times. It's all streaming, so you never have to load walking into a place or walking out of a place. Looks very pretty, and just hundreds of zombies on screen at a time.
But it looks fun.
It looks fun because it gets that. I mean, as much as zombies are played out, which is definitely the case even for Dying Light. Vehicles are a much bigger deal, and just mowing down hundreds of zombies at a time. It just feels fun.
And feeling like I feel like I'm in this place, and I have to, make it. What can I do? And I'm being able to build a flaming sword. Yeah. Being able to make cool things, fun things, but anywhere.
Yeah, you don't need to find a workbench anymore. Like in Dead Rising 2, really cool. You can do it anywhere. But all of that was precedent for...
Guys, this is all... You think it's next gen? It's not.
Thanks for watching up to this point, because all of that was thrown out the window the moment...
You guys are stuck in the 21st century.
The moment we walked into what is the true future of gaming. Yeah. Which was The Oculus Rift.
Are you gonna cry?
I might. Getting choked up. The Oculus Rift demo. I mean, a lot of people have talked about the Oculus Rift. Yeah. Neither of us have tried it yet. Yeah. But this is a very unique demo. The EVE Online guys put together a demo they called EVR. And it was a sort of X-Wing, Wing Commander-esque...
Battlestar Galactica, the TV show.
Space fighter pilot simulation with the Oculus Rift goggles. So let's set up the scene. Yeah. We walk into a room. There's a row of seats against the wall. They're like, okay, guys, have a seat. There's about, I don't know, 6 or 8 seats?
6, yeah.
We sit in the seat. They put the goggles on with earphones, and you're holding a controller. And he says, okay, look to the left. And you look to the left, and when you look to the left, you see...
It's 3D. It's not just 3D. Like a screen in front of your face. It's 3D.
There's no... I mean, if you guys have heard about the Oculus Rift, there's no peripheral vision. Anyway, everything is the screen. Yeah. So you turn your head to the left, and you're looking out the left of the cockpit. There's the giant spaceship engine and wing out there. He says, turn to the right, again, space, engine, awesome
and
engine.
launch room that you're in at the moment.
Launch
so
room.
It's 3D at the moment, but you're confined for the moment.
You look up, top of cockpit with like reflective glass over you. And then he says, look down, and you look down, there's your body holding awesome
flight
controls.
Suit, last Starfighter flight suit, holding controls. Here's the thing. We're describing it to you, and you go, yeah, I've done that in Battlefield 3, where I look to the left, look to the right, whenever, and it's all there. And I can imagine that I'm wearing a thing, like, oh, cool, it's like virtually I'm there. But let me tell you guys, it's not, and I've been to Dave & Buster's, it really does feel like you're in the place. It's one thing to, like, think in your head of what it would be like to, like, virtually be there. But, like, it just virtually feels like you're there.
It is remarkable. Really is remarkable.
And
then you
wish
get
fulfillment
launched.
Yes.
You get launched. And
my heart, you're I mean, because, like, you feel, I get motion sick, I'm feeling that a little bit. And, like, the thrust of it is, like, oh, my God. I'm, like, really, I've done the, like, Mission Control Disney World simulator, and it's very nausea-inducing and all that stuff. This is far better than any Disney dark ride. I mean, like... And you get launched, and then you are out in space amongst the stars.
And other pilots are there, and you're shooting at them, and you're turning your head, and you're locking on with your eyes, and holding a trigger, and letting that go, and then missiles are shooting, and...
You're being fired
at. And the thing I keep saying is that moment in Star Wars where the guy is in his cockpit, and he's like, I can't shake him. And he's looking around for where the TIE fighter is behind him. Yeah. That is exactly what I did. I was looking up with my head and looking around because my view, I would look up in my cockpit and see spaceships behind me. It was unbelievable.
That moment in Wing Commander or X-Wing or Ace Combat when someone passes you is the worst, right?
Right.
You're like, and now you have to... Or like, do I just go faster now? And then turn around and whatever.
Giant U-turn.
But that is your favorite moment. And here, because you go, whoa! And then you like, kind of follow, and you're upside down, and you're like, what? Like, it's real. It's really, really real.
It's really, really real.
Really real.
It is, like, this technology can't come fast enough. And we're saying all that on these crappy dev version, low-res, interlaced, look kind of shitty...
Yeah. The guy made it. They made it in 4 weeks.
4 weeks like, working like lunches and nights.
Yeah, like they're off hours.
Threw it together. Like this, when this becomes
norm. Yeah, will it? Could.
I hope so. I want the HD, HD 1080p version. I want looking around virtual worlds.
Dude, Second Life is gonna be so good.
Yeah, bring on Ready Player One, dude. I'm ready for Player One.
Yeah.
So that's our day. We got more tomorrow. We got we got all Sony tomorrow. We got all Square Enix tomorrow. We got Witcher 3 tomorrow. We got big stuff. So come back then. Subscribe. Dan and I will be back tomorrow. Thank you guys. That does it for day 2. See you tomorrow.